right, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of the Unchained Vodcast. Last episode of the season, as we're about to go into a whole bunch of holidays and everything.
So many.
Well, the winter holidays. And most people are generally pretty distracted by those.
Yeah.
So we decided we'll go ahead and cap it off after this one. Have maybe one that'll run a little bit longer than usual today, as we're going to kind of combine a couple of different topics we wanted to discuss in to this show and see where we go. Welcome everybody. Hello Strike. I do remember how young and agile we were during the Kickstarter for this game. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I've never been young and agile.
I have a long time ago.
Hello, Svarty. So today, what we're going to talk about, mostly, is the Beta 1 development timeline. Basically, just a whole lot of us speculating about about how the game development is going to come along, what's going to come out next, what they're working on, and how long we think we're going to be in different phases of testing, specifically Beta 1. So I thought about this a lot for this episode. Like, I was really sitting here just kind of dwelling on questions and things that we could talk about, and especially what we should start with. And one question popped in my head that I felt we really just had to start with, and that question is, when does Beta 1 start?
Good question. I'd say maybe now that we have the 64-bit client.
I'm actually not joking this time.
I will consider my own personal consideration would be, I think, when mages are added in. Because they existed in the alpha, I feel like we're not quite where we even were as far as what's available compared to then. And once those are in, I will feel more like, okay, well, there's been more progression than there was in the alpha at this point.
Yeah, that beard is still there.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
You said you would save it for Beta 1.
I started looking at all the different things for beta and things that are in beta and things that are in development for beta, and this question kind of came. I mean, we've joked about it on other episodes, like Beta 1 kind of started, but then I really sat here and I was like, I'm actually kind of serious about this. So, warning, if you're expecting me to be very fanboyish today, it's not going to happen, because actually the more I dwelled on it, the more irritated I got.
One of those episodes, guys.
Not entirely, but a little bit, at least at the start, because I started looking at
those usual seasons. We start very positive and then we end up very bitter.
I'm actually not super bitter. It's just the notion of the start of Beta 1 started coming up, and what started it is I looked at the Beta 1 doc. I didn't go back. I didn't go back to the Beta 1 checklist we originally had forever ago. Instead, I looked at Beta 1 doc, and I was looking at that for what they were working on and everything. And then I noticed the Beta 1 doc says this is a document for, in broad strokes, what Beta 1 is supposed to be when it starts. And I started checking off things that were not in Beta 1 yet. We don't have a bank. There's supposed to be a bank with an NPC. It's not supposed to work, but it's supposed to explain the banking system. Do you know how the banking system works? I don't know how the banking system works. There's supposed to be a tavern with a tavern NPC and music. There's supposed to be separate safe islands and the launch island for the contested isles.
That kind of exists.
Kind of, yeah.
Sort of.
There isn't a contested isle per se, but there are now the scenarios.
Which are not contested isles.
Well,
yeah, but they are on the contested island. You have the safe starter zone.
Yeah.
And then you teleport to the contested island where the scenarios take place.
Yeah. So I think that meets the requirements, but just not in the way we thought it would be.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit on that. That is not what is in the doc at all. That is the scenarios. We have scenarios at present. We do not have contested islands, as far as I'm concerned.
No.
Maybe they would argue it, but I would consider them to be liars if they really tried to argue that, because we do not have contested islands in any true RVR fashion. We have scenarios. We don't have Saturday Night Siege.
Nope.
I didn't really expect Beta 1 to start with Saturday Night Siege, but
I did.
what actually kind of bothered me about this was that I haven't heard them talk about adding any of these features since Beta 1 started. We're working on destruction, working on the 64-bit client. None of these things have come up in conversation or in the wrap-ups saying, like, we've got someone working on this, because it's supposed to be out. Yeah. And so I started sitting on all these, and then I was like, when does Beta 1 actually start? Like, when do we expect to have these things that are supposed to be in Beta 1 in Beta 1 before we really get to the other things?
They got tied up by things that I think kind of bit them in the ass planning-wise, that they realized, oh, we actually kind of need all this now, and we weren't anticipating needing it. And building destruction, it became one of those precursors to Saturday Night Siege, and Siege in general is like, oh, well, now we need rubble to explode before we even do that. There's a lot of things that are now snowballing and being a requirement to add these things we thought we'd get earlier.
Yeah.
Well, and for some of these things, I really felt like it is the case that we've kind of mentioned before in other episodes and speculated on a bit, where they essentially did get to a point where they put out Beta 1, called it Beta 1 because it was good enough to be the start of Beta 1.
Yeah.
It wasn't what they said they were all going to put in there, but they were like, we've got to put it out now so people can do it. We've delayed it too many times.
We can't,
And then maybe they saw these things and went, we were going to have to spend 6 months on this stuff to even get that out. And we don't know. I mean, we still don't know when they want to lift NDA, but that's kind of my assumption. My assumption was that NDA probably won't be lifted until temporarily, or it's for certain testing sessions or whatever, until we have 64-bit client, the building destruction, and probably Saturday Night Sieges, because I expect that might be a thing they would go, all right, we'll lift it for Saturday Night Sieges or something, and then roll those out. I could see that being probably a safe place where they could kind of roll it out and go, see, guys, it's a game. And I agree, Strike. I think I don't think they put those things in the documents with no intention of putting them in. I think they did, and I mean, some of them aren't nearly as important as others, like having a bank that explains the banking system. Not that critical. Having a tavern for people to hang out with and listen to music and just BS. Not that critical. Not having contested islands, that's kind of a major aspect. And we kind of do have islands you can capture and everything, but they're packaged only within the scenarios.
I think now with the scenarios, we won't get that until Beta 2 or something like that.
I think
the actual contested islands.
I think we'll still
focus.
get it.
They put too much development focus on the scenarios to switch gear to contested islands.
I mean, that was a new thing too.
Yes, we didn't expect that.
I know that contested islands are Ben's first choice of getting into the game. If he had a choice, he doesn't. But that he mentioned that was the one thing he really wanted to see get in sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to say, Grim Slag, I actually read over the document 2 or 3 times to make sure that it did not say these were things to be in Beta 1 before Beta 1 was over. It starts the document saying these are broad strokes for what should be in Beta 1 at launch of Beta 1. So at the onset of it. So and like I said, some of them are things I didn't really expect to be like the day one. But we're how many months into Beta 1 now? 4?
Wait,
no, it was July 4th. It was July 4th, wasn't it?
It was delayed about 3 weeks after that.
That's true. So
end of July.
So August, essentially.
Yeah.
So we're
about 4 months.
3-4 months,
yeah.
And we're still, none of those things are in. None of those things have even been mentioned. So really, on to the actual topic for today. I just wanted to start with, there's some gaps and some holes in what we're supposed to have for Beta 1 already. When do we think those things might come up? It's hard. I think it's hard to say because they haven't really mentioned even working on them. Which makes me assume at least 3 to 4 months before any of those things are really in. Or like Kriss said, maybe Contested Islands won't even be in till towards the end of beta 1. I don't know.
We do know they're working on the next scenario map already, so chances are, not till much later for Contested Islands.
Yeah,
I think they completely switched gear for the testing from Contested Island to scenarios. In a way, I can understand, because if they want to focus on one mechanism of each type, rather than leaving it to the players to do everything in the Contested Island, I can understand it is a more focused testing system with the scenarios.
I mean, they
But
could
at the
still
same
have
time,
a scenario that is 3 contested
Yeah.
islands, and you fight over
Yeah.
them. Like a mini version of the larger form, and they just do that as a scenario, and then eventually roll it out into a bigger form.
Yeah.
That would still be kind of like, but I would be like, that's close enough. I get it, you know. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can see some of the city and building stuff getting in a little sooner, especially now that the Builders Brigade is getting involved. I think they're going to be outsourcing a lot of that initial stuff to them and perhaps other people.
Yes.
To get those in faster than they would otherwise. But any of the other stuff you mentioned, I think, is pretty far away still, compared to the timeline that we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the like I said, that's just kind of the thing that bothered me to start with. And that's my main complaining spree over for the most part. Weird question, but how much has the beta actually added since launch? Just visual stuff, and it's mostly been bug fixing.
Yeah,
honestly,
a lot of
bug fixing. But they have been working on essentially what is the next part of our conversation. 64-bit client, making everything much more stable, making everything much more functional, better performance, and working on destruction so that we can have siege, because we can't have Saturday Night Sieges really without building destruction. And the contested islands really aren't going to be that enjoyable without building destruction either. So we do that is very important, and both of those seem to be pretty much kind of sort of done, not like 100% of course, but more or less added.
At least we saw some bouncy castles.
Yeah, we did.
So at this point, my next question was going to be, what is next? What are we going to see next in development?
Mages. It's specifically the mage class, and getting that in with its current iteration of design, adding some of that character 2.0 element to it, and then taking Ben's design right now and building a class that we can actually start testing.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, from the email they sent out this Friday, yesterday. They're also working now on. Looks like they've got a major focus on the character assets, the ability builder, and the animations. Specifically, the character assets and animations. It sounds like those are maybe in the not the last leg of total development, the last leg of this current sprint of development to get them to a certain point for beta 1.
I don't think we'll see. Yeah, definitely we'll see that before we see any of the animations, because they package any of textures and animations and all of that into Character 2.0, which is all going to get released kind of all at once rather than over time. Yeah. So they might be done with it earlier, but we're not even going to see it until they're ready to release Character 2.0.
Yeah. It's going to be a big update just for that. That's going to come. I think right now John is finishing, as I said in the update, the last few touches on the armors, and after that, I think they're gonna fine tune the animations, I believe, and then they're gonna launch it. But yeah, it's probably gonna take another little while.
So let's look at some actual timelines here. We've got 64-bit client and building destruction fairly well along here. Possibly more or less
64-bit client is in. It's now they did state that from now on, the default client is the 64-bit.
Yeah. I don't count anything they say is done. Even if they say it's in, I'm like,
Well, it's what the patcher is. It's 64 bits now.
yeah. What about the mages? How long do you kind of anticipate is going to be the build up before they're adding another class to beta 1?
Well, I was pretty close to when I thought they'd be releasing 64-bit, and I said internally, like I thought the end of November, and it's pretty much there. But now that there's only 1 month left to the end of the year, which is a nice goal point for any company, I think building something is going into the new year. I don't think we'll see it until the end of January.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I actually expected probably longer than that. I'm expecting February, like towards the end of February. Just because I've started adding lots of padding to anything that they say they're going to launch out. But I mean, for the most part, like I can't see how there's massive amounts of work left to do on mages that
there isn't.
They haven't already been working on and finishing to a large extent. So I'm hopeful for February, maybe March for that.
We do know Ben has moved on to a number of different classes in the last 3 weeks, knocking them all out pretty quickly as far as just an initial first pass at redesign on paper. And the mages are first on that list. So
it really
is. It's Stealther, I believe.
He's done the Devout. He's done now the support class. I think he finished this last week.
Yeah, I think it was.
Now he's moving on.
He was moving on to Stealth.
Unfortunately, it just really seems like the paper completion portion is really not the bulk of the work for getting them into the game. It's probably I would imagine it's the animations and all the effects, especially for something like the Mage, where everything has effects.
The thing is, Sparty, the animation, well, the characters 2.0 is not what delays the mechanical stuff. What delays the mechanical stuff is that the way they're implementing stuff in the beta, which is they implemented a chunk of things, test it, iron out the bug, and then implement something else rather than even the two different things. Even if they're ready, they don't release them at the same time and then try to iron out all the bug. They release one chunk at a time and then debug it for a while. So that's why it delays so much also.
Yeah. The other thing I did want to ask about content-wise is the Devout. We know that they've been kind of working on those as well. They've mentioned them a little bit. Obviously, they're working on getting mages out, so I don't think serious work on getting Devout out probably going to start until the mages are out. And even
no, definitely.
No, I've already asked Mark that. He said mages are next, Devout not anytime soon.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to focus on the classes we have right now in testing and the mages added.
Yeah, I don't anticipate the Devout until maybe June.
Yeah, I was thinking probably 3 months after mages came in, if they came in like February, but I didn't know that he had specifically said they weren't actually working on Devout, because last thing I said they had mentioned working on Devout.
It's all the work they've done has been entirely just been on writing on paper or XML spreadsheets and stuff.
That's interesting, because that's an interesting thing with the whole like working it out on paper, because honestly that's the sort of thing I would have expected to have been done like years ago. To a large extent, and I don't of course I'm not a game developer, but
when they first announced all those classes way back when, they quite literally wrote a lot of those the day of, and they were coming up with names hours before the stream went live, and like they didn't even have all that information.
Yeah. You're not helping my mood.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Being factual here.
Checking out chat for a minute. I do hope that the frequency of tests also increases a bit. I know I've complained about this a lot. I really hope it becomes more of a consistent thing with at least some aspect, like Saturday Night Sieges or something. And kind of going into that, speaking of, with consideration of Beta 1, has it started yet? Has it not? How long do you think we are going to be in Beta 1? When does
Until
Beta
December
1
2019,
end?
which is the supposed also release date of Camelot
Yeah.
Unchained.
I don't feel like it. I'm not that salty or that dour about it.
I'm not being salty at all.
Oh no.
All right. Well, I'm saltier than you about it, but I'm not. I'm not
Yes.
that dour about it. I think it's like I said. I feel like we would at the rate we've been going. I feel like we'll probably be in something that I'm comfortable calling Beta 1 in about 3 months. So sometime in March, maybe late March. And I originally expected 6 months for Beta 1. So I'm expecting probably about 5 months after that. Maybe sometime in August or so, they'll try to transition us to Beta 2. Because originally I
Yeah.
was expecting 6 months for Beta 1 and then 3 months for maybe each phase after that or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark has said, and I would like to have confidence in his words, that a lot of this other stuff we're waiting for is going to start just popping into place, and it's easy to work on once all this front-loaded 64-bit stuff is done. I don't know if that's going to be the case or
Yeah.
not.
I would like to, and I would
Yeah.
like to also be confident in that. But then we have things like they're just now getting the abilities finished for classes on paper, and I'm like, okay. I mean, you their definition for what that means may be different than what my definition
Yeah.
for what that means.
Mhm.
But when you say that to me, it sounds really bad. It sounds like
Yeah.
you really have no concrete idea of how this class works until just now.
Well, I mean, they have no concrete idea of how Resurrection's going to work.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. I'll say okay. 'Cause last year, I was still going. I'm still holding out hope that they do have a general idea of how they want it to work, even if they want to do play testing to see if that's going to work out. So they don't want to mention it till then. But at this point, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. They may very well just have no idea how it's going to work and how they even want it to work, which would disturb me. But we really don't know.
Resurrection is coming with the expansion, so it's permakill all the way up to the expansion.
Yep.
That is the case. No resurrection for anybody.
Hardcore mode only.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I keep trying to have faith that they're working on a lot of things they're not telling us about,
but
at the same time,
I've been kind of operating, trying to have that faith for the last 2 years, and it hasn't panned out yet. So
it could be just as possible they are the most transparent gaming development company ever, and we know literally everything that they know at this point.
Yeah, which is scary.
Well, that would be scary. Yes, I would rather not think of that.
I really hope it's not the case, because that means
that would be a point of actually being so transparent it's deceptive. We told you everything we knew, which was nothing. No.
I will continue to have faith in them and know that it will get done and hopefully right. And
it's still coming along. The real question is how long we have to wait and how many people we lose along the way.
People will we gain back along the way.
Yeah, well,
hopefully.
There are certain things you lose, though, you can't get back.
Yeah.
Like, we used to have a fan site. That doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
I'm never bringing
their
it back.
fault.
Well, yes and no. It's hard to have a fan site when you don't have any info on the game.
Yes, but we never had fans to begin with, so...
Yeah. We had
Well, I'm just saying, if the game had come out a couple of years ago, we might have still had a fan site.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just saying, there are certain things that, there are people and certain efforts and things that will fall off in given too much time. Like, we used to do the vodcast every week. We ended that after one season. We went, nope.
I don't remember that. It's been that long.
We're not doing that anymore. We'll do it every other week, and then we'll take
on the cast at the time?
I was not on the very first set of casts with Alistair and the
Oh,
other
that's
person.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when we were 4 discussing that, and then
Yeah. When we
after
started
one
this back up,
season,
I was
Yeah.
supposed to be a guest because you guys didn't have a third person
Yeah.
lined up, and I had a very tough job, and I just
that's-
ended up showing up every week. And
yeah,
Now you're required, otherwise we're gonna get back.
yeah,
yeah. Otherwise, we don't know what we're talking about technically. Really.
yeah.
Donnie, how dare you post that? How dare you?
That was a while back. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
I still have under my name the address of the fan site.
Oh, there'll definitely be a new fan site when the game comes out. I just won't be doing it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, no,
Yeah.
someone else could do that. I already started that up. We're not doing it again.
Yeah.
It'll be Strike or Sacrix.
One thing I did want to talk about though was speaking about Beta 1 and Beta 1 timeline, is how long until they start letting Beta 2 backers in? Because we've already been 3 months in, Beta 2 backers have seen nothing.
Yeah.
I suspect it'll be around the same time they start considering dropping NDA.
Probably.
You'll see, I think, weekends here and there that they'll open it up to Beta 2 backers, but as far as like a permanent opening, I don't think they're ever going to go that route. The way they do handle things now, they'll even stop Beta 1 and just leave only Alpha and or just IT open for people. And I think it's going to be that way all the way to the end.
Well, no. I mean, essentially the same thing they did with Beta 1 backers and Alpha. Eventually they started having somewhat regular Alpha tests with Beta 1 backers in it. They've said they're going to do the same thing for Beta 2 backers. During Beta 1, we're 3 months in.
Well, we're not in Beta 1, so...
Well, what I'm saying is
According
even
to them,
now, they close Beta 1 people out for some testing and only still do Alpha, even though we are now in Beta 1. So I think even going into Beta 2, they'll shut down Beta 2s and Beta 1s and do just Alpha testing still.
Well, yes. I'm specifically saying when we think they're going to start allowing Beta 2 backers into some of the tests.
Later next year.
Probably, yeah. Probably spring next year or something like that.
Much later than that.
Well, that's when we were just hypothesizing Beta 1 might end. So
yeah,
that's what I was saying.
Beta 1 might start.
That would make them liars. I'm just saying.
I don't think there's enough time left in between now and the end of December to really give them that much time.
Well, I didn't say the end of December. I said during Beta 1.
Right, but Beta 1, if it hasn't even technically started yet, it's going to go a while, and it's going to push until late summer at the latest, hopefully. So we won't even see Beta 2 till around that time.
Yeah, I'm not expecting Beta 2 until sometime late next year. But the Beta 2 backers are supposed to have access to Beta 1 before Beta 1 ends. I don't expect it's going to be until... maybe they until it's in a condition they would consider letting NDA drop. So at least like probably 3 months after, maybe March, April, something like that. Once 64-bit has been out, Beta 1 has actually been still continuing on for
kind of
several more
ironed
months.
out a bit.
Which honestly is kind of a... this actually kind of goes back to a conversation we had a couple weeks ago of how is the testing going? Are they getting enough testers?
No,
because sometimes you get in there, there's not that many. There's not necessarily a ton of people, and so it's the sort of thing of going. Oh, they said eventually they'd let Beta 2 people in.
The problem is that even with the infrequent testing we get right now, a lot of people are burned out.
Yeah,
because when you test something, you're testing exactly the same thing 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's no different scenarios. There's no contested islands.
A lot of people don't feel like there's been any change, anything that's worth testing. Even if they say what's supposed to be tested, it's nothing visible.
Yeah.
So it burns out a lot of people.
Yeah. But they've got to have the people, and they've told Beta 2 people they will be able to get in. And so I have seen questions, especially on the Reddit, on the subreddit, I've seen people coming in there going, I've Beta 2, when am I going to be able to access the game? And they haven't said anything about it, so they don't know.
I've seen the question show up in chat on a Friday wrap up. Got a little heated, in fact, but asking, when am I going to be able to play? They said we'd be able to get in soon, and that was last year.
Yeah.
Soon, TM.
Yeah.
Every game
PR
development
response was there.
Every game development company
Double
has that
TM
trademark
at this point.
Yeah. That individual was a little perturbed at the response.
Well, there's supposed to be a game to access now, and I will still say I do think the current state of Beta 1 is much more game-like than it was before. It is pretty enjoyable to play. It is something that is difficult to test a ton because, again, there's not like tons of stuff to necessarily do. But that's kind of the case for me with any beta, honestly, even whether it's almost a full game out.
Yeah.
If eventually there reaches a point where you can't do that ridiculous amounts. But again, promises were made. Beta 2 people were told they'd be able to get in. They told they'd be able to test because the game is so super delayed for everybody.
I know. I could see them maybe opening up to Beta 2 for Saturday night sieges once those are fixed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's essentially what they
go.
Yeah.
That's essentially what they did with Beta 1 people in Alpha with the Friday night fights.
Yeah.
Just open those up for us.
And yeah, it's kind of a vicious circle because I'm fairly sure that if they had more people testing, there's a lot of bugs that are right now being fixed that would have been fixed much earlier because they would have been discovered much earlier. But at the same time, I can understand people being burned out on the testing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I certainly hope what's going on in testing is helping them, or has been, because we haven't really been doing much beta testing of late. We haven't had many beta testing weekends of late, but before that, I would certainly hope it is helping them, Grimslag. And I would suspect they would say something if they're not at all getting the numbers they need. But I do think there's a difference between getting an okay amount of testing and getting like what they truly need, and they don't always necessarily really comment on that. And like, okay, did this weekend's test get us enough people? Do we really,
they should report
more?
on that. That would, I think, that would encourage people to actually go and test.
Yeah,
saying we need more testers right now. Last week we had that many testers. We've been able to find a few bugs, but there are still bugs that need to be found and that needs to be tested, and we need more people in.
Yeah, what they do send. I mean, they do send out emails sometimes and say like, we really need people to test for this weekend. But I guess the element to it that's missing for me sometimes is how do we gauge what amount of response is what they're looking for? We really need people to test this weekend. Okay, well, what about the last time you said that? Did we show up like we needed to? Did we need even more people? And then, of course, on top of that is always the issue of they always throw it out last minute and no one can schedule to show up. But
it'd be nice to know
I will not go
enough
down that road right now.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know if there was enough focus in the elements they were looking to test specifically with the bugs that exist that they know about. Because I know there are people like Strike and a couple of other people who specifically try to do those things and break the server and break the game. A lot of the people showing up are probably just shooting arrows and going after winning their little scenario competition.
Yeah, and as Strike said, the schedule is getting short before test, but having a report of how many bugs have been found in the last test, how many bugs have been resolved in the last test, since the last test, showing the testers what they accomplished is usually a good motivation for them to come back, because testing is hard work. It's not fun. We're not here to have fun. We're here to help them make the game better and pushing it out faster. But a lot of people are used to testing to play the game, but they're not being asked to play the game. They're being asked to test bugs.
Yeah.
On one hand, though, they did come up with the dragon circle concept, which is what these scenarios are, which was the biggest reason for it, was to give us more fun testing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really exist in game yet. So
But it doesn't technically
we just
exist
have
in
like
game yet.
the two. So
But there's a lot of behind the scenes intent to give us more of a game-like feel for testing, even though it isn't technically a game yet.
Yeah, and I think that's important. They definitely have to divide the focus to a certain degree between those things to keep people from getting burned out.
The thing, because Svarty was saying, if I scroll up a bit, they're fixing a lot of bugs now. But how useful is that, though? The implementation will be a lot different later. Well, the bugs they're fixing right now are more basic mechanics bug that would make finding later bugs that are more evolved processes a lot harder to fix. So basically, right now they're asking us to fix the foundation before building the house on it.
And now they just laid down an entirely new foundation in 64-bit clients, so now they're kind of reworking all of that. And
exactly.
So.
Yeah, I think going back to the beta 2 testers, I do think there is some valid arguments for not just throwing them in with the beta 1 right off the bat, as they obviously haven't done, because especially with player burnout, the beta 1 testers start getting tired of doing the same thing over and over again. They add some new content. Some more of the beta 1 people come back, test some things, so on and so forth. Eventually, they start to peter out. Then over time, they roll in the beta 2 people. So, my asking for when they're going to put in the beta 2 people isn't so much to criticize that they haven't yet. It's just your speculation of, timeline wise, when do we think they might actually feasibly see it in there? I don't see it for another 4 months, honestly.
I suspect longer, but
and I understand there's thinking also in not bringing beta 2 people because it's going to be literally the sky is falling. This game is never coming out. All over the forums, all over the MMO sites, all over Reddit. When you have beta 2 people that have no idea from where we went since beta 1 started or since alpha and where we are now. And if you let them in right now, it's going to be the apocalypse.
I don't know. I feel like you could say the same thing about beta 1 backers. How much difference is there between beta 1 and beta 2?
Following the game a lot more, I suspect. A lot of the beta 2 are the people who have backed the game and forgot about it until they'll get a message saying, we need you for testing.
I would be interested to see how many people used to be beta 1 backers and then refunded themselves down to a beta 2 level.
You'll never find that out.
But I wonder what that ratio is, because I think it's probably pretty good, even ratio. A lot of people have pulled their backing out.
Yeah, I increased mine, so I can't say that.
Yes,
mine has only increased over time.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. I've played Blindside 2 for a long time, and for me that's a great report to give to people. A lot of people are not going to be interested in that, but a lot of people like to see what bugs have been found, what bugs have been resolved, how many bugs they're looking. The major ones, not all the small ones, but the major ones are being worked on. It would be, I think, really good to keep testers motivated, because that's a goal to achieve. Right now, as a tester, you're a bit in limbo. You're trying to find bugs, but you don't really know what you're looking for. You don't really know if you're helping anything. Knowing that you're helping the game get better is, for most people who are testing the game, a goal.
How have we done collectively?
Exactly.
The only time we really get that is when they have a really major bug, and they're like, "Please, we need to fix this bug," and then everyone gets in to do that.
Exactly.
If I were a betting man, I would say Tim really loves numbers and statistics, and he would be the man to do that for us.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. And
I mean, really, it could be as simple as like a spreadsheet that just says, this many bugs were found, this many were reported by testers, this many were fixed, and
that's it.
Then we'd at least go, okay, we did something.
And that can be added to the weekly wrap up.
That's not a lot of work to put that in a spreadsheet. I mean, because they've got to keep
Yeah.
tabs on that already as it is.
Yeah.
They're already got to be keeping track of that somewhere. It's just a matter of putting it in some kind of form that we can see it.
And they can. I remember Tim talking about it while I was there. He was talking to Mark about something he was tracking with certain bugs being caused by very specific people repetitively. So
I will admit,
Yeah.
I've never been very good at detecting game-breaking bugs and things of that nature. I am very good at finding broken terrain, because I am the king of getting stuck in tables.
Yes,
If there is a freaking model that you can get a character stuck in, I will get stuck
You
in
will
it
get stuck.
somehow. 5 years after launch of the game, I will find the freaking table and be like,
Well,
I'm gonna
when
hop
they-
over it. Hop.
when they finally have a cube city in place for testing, that'll be the week that you, more than anyone, should
It's
show
my
up to.
time to shine.
You're gonna walk all around the city and get stuck in pretty much every building.
It's like a meme at this point with people I play MMOs and games with, because I just have this thing where I have to hop over things. I just feel like I have to jump over different things that are in there that look like you can jump over them, and I like to explore. So we'll be playing different games, and I'm just guys, I'm stuck.
Yeah. Sparty says motivating testers could lead to more productive testing.
Yes.
Which absolutely can. And the Dragon Circle concept, I always thought the way they described it was supposed to be that motivation.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this almost like competition that they keep track of and show results and all that stuff. I have yet to feel any of that in this testing.
There's not.
Yeah.
And,
I don't
Just
I
because we
expect
don't have all the scenarios, but just because there isn't really any kind of point to winning the scenarios. There's no competition involved. It's just you win, match resets.
Yeah.
Fight again,
and I expect
and,
that
and
they
Strike,
haven't had time
I
to
don't
work on
agree that it requires a lot of work to get the report on the bugs, because I'm not a developer, but I'm 100% sure they already have a tracker and a report of how many bugs they have, how many bugs are fixed, how many bugs are being found in every test.
So.
I would hope so. Otherwise, how are they tracking work?
That's the base of testing. So I don't see how they don't already have that. They just need to dumb it down and give us the final numbers. That's all we ask. We don't ask for each and every bug to be reported. We just need an idea of how much we're helping.
Yeah. 100 bugs detected in this month or this week or whatever, and this many we fixed, etc.
This many found this test. Since right now we're testing once a week or so. How many bugs have been found this week? Yeah. How many
even just a thank you and post the top 100 testers as far as total time logged in a beta 1 available test or something like that.
And that's a thing that they specifically said that they had developed something to track stats for, and that they wanted to have. So.
Yeah, they know who's on and who's not.
Yeah,
Strike would be number 1.
I would very much not be. I'm bad. Mainly because
Donnie and Strike would probably be in the top 3.
I schedule like all my weekly activities. So coming on Friday and going, we're having testing tomorrow, really pisses me off. It really does. I'm like, damn it! I am not just going to get up tomorrow and do testing. I was going to go to the movies. Ugh. I'm a planner. It bugs me. Anyway,
but timeline. Beta 2. What comes after that?
Beta 3.
I was just trying to read Strike's comment. Well,
we honestly don't know much.
Having something from the community is different than the developers, because the developers should already be tracking that. They should already have that data.
The thing is, I can understand the tracker being less staffed for a launch game. This is the game in development. They need to be tracking the bugs and everything, so they must have it already.
I don't even care about how many bugs get detected and fixed by detected by us and fixed at post-launch.
Yeah,
I care to know that they're fixing them. I don't care to know what the amount is anymore. I'm like, oh, to hell with it. I'm not doing testing. I will freely admit, post-launch, I am not someone who gets on the test server and tests new things.
Yeah,
I play the game and I go.
No,
You
I
keep
go on the
that."
test server whenever there's a new update that goes on the test server before live,
I don't. I won't lie.
just to try it.
I don't at all.
Just to try it. When I was
I
still
say I
playing
will, and then I
Overwatch, I
don't.
would go to the PTR just to try the new heroes.
I say I will, and then I don't. I installed it for a while, and then I eventually uninstalled it because I never got on.
Takes up space.
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there
It'll
will be a beta 3, yes.
before December 2019 is the question.
Oh, before the predicted launch,
Ah.
I'm gonna say, when did I predict? I predicted maybe beta 1 till sometime in August.
Mm.
So
That's a good prediction.
I would say I would expect beta 3 to start maybe sometime around predicted launch date.
Yeah.
Or I'm still going after that.
Maybe December
I
or
would
November
probably
at best.
I would probably go for a beta 3 in January 2020.
I really don't expect the game to launch until March or April of 2020.
Yeah.
To be honest,
There are a surprising number of things that Sacrix and I both agree on. The release date of this game is one of those things, and the timeline for it also being that case.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see beta 3 till 2020, early 2020.
I'm still a little bit hopeful in that, just because I do think that beta 1 will last 5-ish months, and that beta 1, from the time that I consider it to probably be starting, which is in about 3 months, at that point beta 1 will have lasted for 11 months.
Yeah.
So beta 1 will end sometime around like August, then maybe we'll have 3 months or so for beta 2. At most 4 or 5 months, one would hope. So at that point we're pushing, December.
Yeah.
For beta 3, and beta 3 is not supposed to be, by my understanding, that long of a beta, but we don't really know for sure. So it's all going to be variable. It's all going to be fluid to some extent. Has your mic cut out?
It's a joke.
No,
Yeah, it's a joke.
Oh, okay.
It's because he said he was agreeing with Sacrix. We did an episode with Sacrix. There's surprisingly a lot of things we don't agree with the way he says it, but there's actually a lot of things we actually agree on.
I was gonna say I think the disagreement is more just in the typing of things, like
Yeah.
The presentation of the idea.
than the actual ideas themselves.
But
Especially
it's
like
gonna be...
I've said, our last like salty episode, and then kind of this one also. It's like, I was surprised Sacrix wasn't here for this one.
Yeah.
He would have liked this episode.
It's going to be interesting with talking about the timeline, because we've asked them maybe a month ago on what I asked them, like, what comes next after all this. And Mark didn't have much to say, and he was being very open and honest about what was coming now, and that they didn't really have anything planned after that. And what is coming now is happening now. 64-bit, Coherent, and Mages were the 3 big items.
Which is
after which there wasn't much he could talk about because he didn't know, and he was very open with that.
Which is always one of those things that does bug me. It seems pretty consistent that they come out and they go, we're working on this now. We don't really have a timeline for what we're working on after that. And I'm always like, why? Like, okay, again, I'm not a game developer, but I do run projects, and they're all planned out in stages. They don't necessarily have hard dates, but there's stages. I know what's coming after I do this, and then after I do that, and then after I do that.
And it's not even the stages. It might just be once 64 bits is in, it allows us to do that, and that when that is done, then we can move on to that.
Yeah.
It's like dominoes. You start, you push one, and then the other fall off after one another. So you should at least have a general idea of where it's going.
Yeah. So that sort of stuff, when they say stuff like that, it does worry me then, because I'm like, I mean, I'm like, if that's honest, that's a little bit disturbing to me, because I mean, that may be. I'm not a game developer, so maybe that is how game development tends to work. But it goes against everything I know about project management, so it bothers me. 'Cause I'm like, how does that?
I mean,
How do you even operate like that?
it could be the meaning wasn't in the words he used, and there was
Yeah.
a disconnect in that. Or it could be as simple as he's pulled back a little bit from being
Giving too
as
much,
involved
yeah.
with the producers,
Could
and
be.
letting them just do the work and figuring that out while he starts working on other things like crafting, hopefully. It could be that simple.
Yeah,
Or
it could
maybe
be.
they just don't
They
quite
they
know
have
yet.
they have two producers. That's their job. But then
Yeah.
bring them on the cast.
So let's ask Tyler. Yeah, Tyler and Ash.
Maybe I should let y'all push for interviews because I'm not very successful at it so far.
I got one,
Yeah.
so
Hey,
which I missed.
we
but
we've
did
had
have
two.
MJ on the
Yeah,
cast.
we've had two,
We did.
so we've been moderately successful with that. But now that we've talked about how the game is never coming out,
Moving on to better and crazier ideas.
Yeah.
somebody had suggested at one point that we'd have an episode to talk about our own batshit crazy ideas for the game. What things would we super want to see if game development went ridiculously well? What would we really want to see in the game? And we kind of decided that we don't really want to do a whole episode talking about that. And since this was going to be the last episode for the season, maybe we just have some fun and just kind of throw out things that we're like, yeah, we really wish that could be in the game at launch. It's not going to be, but
Yeah.
would be awesome. And so we just kind of wanted to open that up to you guys as well as for us. I have a short list of like 3 things. GM run events, we know that's not going to be in the game. In fact,
That was going to be on my list.
one of the recent interviews, MJ specifically said maybe for the
Not
RP
happening.
server, no other server is going to have any kind of GM run events. So we know that's not a thing, but
Yeah.
I would love to have some GM run events. That would be cool. Of course, I've wanted that for like every MMO, and it never happens.
Yeah.
Even just a step short of that, not necessarily GM run events, but just world events, scripted world events
Yeah,
created by the developers.
I would at least still like those.
Yeah. They haven't completely ruled out those. The GM led event, yes, but the world events, they haven't completely ruled them out.
Maybe we'll get some player run events with the blessing of developers, and as far as like actual power involved in running them.
Yeah, that's something I would be open to as well, especially if it's not necessarily tied to PvP, but they're just given some ability to do something related to the event. That would be nice. There's different pie in the sky things that we can really look for. They did at least mention seasonal events at one point. I mean, at this point, I think that's been like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But they have mentioned seasonal events and having like, Christmas event or Halloween event or whatever themed within the lore of the game.
Meteor shower. That would be fun. Reset the world.
Crush everything.
I know what's at the top of Chris's list, though.
Go ahead.
Combat.
We'll see.
Naval combat.
Well, no, because I know it's never going to be at launch.
Well, none of these are going to be at launch.
Surprisingly enough, the round cubes, the round building for
that
cubes.
might actually make it in with the 64-bit client.
That's
not right with it, but
entirely BSC.
Yeah,
a little bit BSC.
Yeah, a little.
That's feasible.
They've been promising it for a while. They've shown us demos of it, so
they've not yet said no.
Yeah.
So the PvE leveling system.
Nope.
That's with the next game.
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
I would say Svarty. I could agree with that. I mean, I don't think the air system, of course, is supposed to be in, so it's not entirely BSC to say that. But there is definitely a difference between having like air system, and then like the fully super
Yeah.
awesome, fully realized air system, which is what I would
That
really
would be
like
great,
to see. And let's see, possibility of full looting of defeated enemies, recently gathered herbs and stuff. Yeah, I think that would be cool too. I am kind of not necessarily like I don't really like full looting of gear necessarily, but like things that you're carrying and stuff. I tend to be in favor of stuff like that
Yeah.
too in games. But it also depends on how easy it is to die.
Yeah.
If you can get all your stuff taken away, then death has to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, the time to kill needs to be a bit longer.
Compared to the already longer time to kill that exists now.
Possibly.
It depends on what you're getting shot with.
It's not a BSC idea, but I would definitely want all the classes in for launch, like at launch.
Yes.
Not happening, but
yeah,
I'm a little batshit crazy with that idea.
I would like that too. It would be really nice to have everything in.
What about drivable siege engines? For
No.
crafters.
No.
Like cogwheels for wheels, and you just like a battering ram. Just
There,
you're late, Sacrix.
You're late. You missed all of our complaining.
You missed all
everything you wanted to hear is done.
You missed all the bitching.
We're just BSing now, so. One of the things for me was the it took me a minute to adjust my volume because I accidentally adjusted my headset first, and y'all of a sudden it got super loud, and I was like, "Ow!" But one of the things for me, crap, I can't even read my own handwriting here. Was the actually two things because I'm big about the lore and everything. So is major lore NPCs that are interactable and engaged in the game and important to the game so that we have some element of lore and immersion, as well as, even though, again, no, it's not going to be in, I would love to have cinematic cutscene style intros for creating your character for your race to give some of the racial background, and maybe even for certain specific game events like reuniting Camelot or dragon invading the server or something.
Which dragons are a thing. We know that. That's not batshit crazy to think about that. We just don't know how they're a thing.
We talked some actual truth, Sackers. We pretty much said the game's never coming out. I mean,
pretty much.
Maybe not that bad, but more or less speculating on maybe mid 2020 launch. Still not quite right. I turned up. Well, I can only turn up my mic I only turned it up another 10% because that's all I got. We're at full 100% now. I can turn them down, and then y'all can turn the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Oh no, Svarty. Star Citizen is still ways away from delivering, so at least we're safe on that.
If there's one thing I can say, it's that CU delivers way better than Star Citizen. I have no problem saying that. Yeah, that was pretty much the first part of this was me asking the question of when Beta 1 actually starts.
Nope, that was actually
right out the gate.
I didn't even give y'all any warning. I just came in here. I was like, so when does Beta 1 actually start? Because I'm feeling bitchy.
It's the holiday spirit.
So, did y'all have any other crazy BSC things you really wanted to see?
You said the one that was the most obvious to me, and looking at it, and I've spent some time thinking about it, the things they're trying to do in the game are all kind of batshit crazy compared to other games that exist. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to come up with some.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
They're doing a lot of complex things, which is
Yeah.
testament to why there's been so many delays. But
For sure.
I want to see actual crazy creatures as beasts of burden, and the actual like water dragon like that they showed once as the way to go from one island to the other. I actually want to see that in the game, and not just horses dragging the caravans.
Yeah, and that's why like I mention a lot of lore and NPC and video type stuff because I do get that's a large part of what for MMOs I enjoy because they are MMO RPGs. It's not MMO fantasy games; they're MMO RPGs. There's supposed to be a role playing element to them, and the more the game drags on, gets delayed, and these elements don't really get pushed in there so much, the more I do get concerned that the RP element is going to end up getting pushed far to the wayside. I mean, the amount of stories that with lore stories and background stuff that we have is substantial for any MMO, but it's not.
Yeah.
But given the amount of time that they've been writing them, it's not necessarily like hugely substantial. And background stories don't make an RPG; they just make a setting for an RPG. And so that's why I like that kind of thing is important to me. So it's like I would really like to have some more of these things that are cool and everything in the game.
Yeah.
Kind of going along with the random possible veil storms, not necessarily random, because it is based upon the magic use of the players.
Yeah.
I would like to see some sort of random depths-based interaction with fights in large settings that don't necessarily take place inside the depths. Just
the depths like, trying to reach out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Grimslag just mentioned a bunch of stuff I would love to see in game 2. Just general sense of immersion in the game. You know, guards nodding at you, calling you by your rank and title. You know, things of that nature is I think goes
a lot of fluff.
It doesn't necessarily add the RP, but it does help with the immersion, make the game feel alive in a certain way.
Fluff can be good. Fluff is nice.
Yes. It makes a game alive.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a game without...
The game can be as good as it wants. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
The game can be as good as it can be mechanically. If the world feels empty, it's not going to retain people.
Yeah, it's going to be problematic. It's like when we were playing... God, what was that? I've mentioned it before, that freaking Korean MMO we were playing for a little bit.
Bless.
Bless. Had the really cool pet system where you can capture pets and stuff, and had a couple mechanics I really liked. But one thing that still bothers me to this day is at one point I walked off the major quest path, and I was just like, what's this area over here? And I walked into it, and it was forest, and that was it. Like, there was a town. There were no NPCs in the town. It was just buildings, just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you serious? Like, you literally got to this point and then just went, fuck it. We're not even...
Pretty much,
We can't even be bothered. We're just going to leave that empty, and we will do something with it later. I was like...
What I would love to see...
All immersion gone.
We know that it's not going to happen because they're switching kind of the focus on the stealth system. But I would have loved to see an actual veil, inside the veil walk. For the Veil
world,
an actual parallel Veil world, like a spirit world, kind of with the filter, or that would be pretty awesome.
When did they say they were changing that?
Oh, they talked about the Veil. Yeah, I want that. I would love to have that in the game. They were talking years ago about the Veil Walkers and Veil Stalkers.
Yes,
being fighting in the depth.
Yeah.
In the Veil.
The Veil,
yeah. I don't remember them confirming they will actually happen anymore.
Well, I thought that was part of the reason why stealthers are not intended for launch, because they can't. That's just too much work to do for launch. Because I mean, if they just make them invisible, that's easy.
No, all of the stealther specific mechanics intend for them to go into the Veil and then come back out, or be pulled out by other stealthers. There's no actual fighting in the Veil.
Well, I don't recall them ever saying that wasn't going to be the case anymore. I remember them saying that there wouldn't necessarily be punishments for being in the Veil, like the environmental effects attacking you and stuff like there used to be, because that was a concept for a while for them. You know, they were going to go in, and then the longer they were in there, it was going to like stuff was going to attack them and try to kill them, and then they kind of went, that's probably not going to be fun, and that's going to be a pain in the ass. So we're not going to do that. Because
As far as I remember, they're taking combat in the Veil out of it, and it's just pulling people in and out, and then traveling through it to get from point A to point B stealthily.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something we'll have to bring into a weekly wrap up question because I don't remember them ever saying they weren't going to do that anymore.
They're using it kind of as like a debuffer, like for some of the stealth classes. When you immediately exiting the Veil, you can do certain attacks with improved elements of your attack. Things like that, but you're not actually fighting in the Veil.
Well, again, I mean, just because you go in the Veil, other people are going to be in the Veil while you're in the Veil, so why wouldn't you be able to fight?
It's just the way the abilities are working.
But we don't even have the abilities, so how do we know the abilities don't work that way?
Off of the concepts of what we know of the stealth classes when they initially announced them, there was never intended to be fighting in the Veil. It was just a way of transportation into going into this other planar dimension and then come out of it to do improved things.
That's not how I remember that, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see anyway. Because I would have loved to have an actual, a Veil world separate parallel basically to the normal world.
Yeah, because that was still my whole concept behind how the battle was going to take place. Is you've essentially got them both layered on top of each other, and the stealther is going to be engaging here, until they cross over to attack somebody in the normal battles.
Doesn't look that way at the moment.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look that way at the moment.
Based on what? Based
off of the concepts of the stealth abilities that we were given.
But those were given to us the same time they said that they were going to be fighting in the Veil with...
No, that was before the class release.
Countering each other.
Yeah.
That was before the class releases. That's the thing.
Either way. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm just getting caught up on chat for a minute here. How far off is the updated mage presentation? I mean, well, we were saying earlier that mages should be in fairly soon.
Fairly soon,
I expect mages within I have a general time frame that I think the next phase of beta 1 rollout of features is within about 3 months or so. And that's when I think it'll actually be probably beta 1 like. It still may not have every feature that's in the beta 1 document that's supposed to be in beta 1, but within maybe March or sometime in March we'll have I hope we'll have mages and probably another scenario or two, and have building destruction and everything in and working concretely, and at that point, maybe then they'll also start considering lowering NDA for certain tests or something like that. I don't know.
I would say earlier than mid-year next year.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I mean, honestly, if we get to June of 2019 and mages aren't out, I don't know what I'm going to do.
That would be a very bad sign.
I would be extremely discouraged by that.
Yes.
Very bad sign.
Especially given that they've been saying for a little while now that once some of this front-loaded stuff gets done, we're going to see things coming in more quickly. They've been saying that for like a month, so... It's been a long while. Every time I think something's been like, that's been like 3 months ago. No, that was a year ago. That's how long that was.
Yeah.
And anytime I say that something is done, until game launch, I consider that to mean it's in the game and it's functioning for the most part and just needs some bug fixes and some improvements over time. But for the most part, it's working. as intended, anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've rambled on quite a bit.
We
We
have.
covered the general timeline of when we think things may or may not come out, and also speculated on, just threw out a few things that we would really like to see in game. This is our last episode for the season. Holidays are coming up for most people, and we're going to take a break. We'll probably come back sometime either later in January or in February,
Yeah.
depending on what we decide, and kind of on what comes out in the game and whether there's anything to really talk about.
Yes.
So
Hopefully soon.
thanks for everybody for coming out, everybody for checking out the recording
Thank you.
later on and everything, and we will return
See you
with
soon.
more episodes.
Soonish. TM.